Welcome to See You on the Other Side, where the world of the mysterious collides with the world of entertainment. A discussion of art, music, movies, spirituality, the weird, and self-discovery. And now, your hosts, musicians and entertainers who have their own weakness for the weird, Mike and Wendy from the band Sunspot.
See You on the Other Side, episode 111. I'm Mike.
And I'm Wendy.
And we're here with professional weirdos.
Yes.
Greg and Dana Newkirk. How you guys doing in Cincinnati today?
Muggy. But it's okay.
Clammy.
That's Cincinnati.
It's still not winter.
No,
I can't wait.
our
That's
two
okay.
seasons.
So it's living up to its name of Cincinnati?
It
Yes.
is Cincinnati.
Nasty
That's
natty.
apt. That's good.
So,
Actually, Cincinnati is one of our favorite places for our band Sunspot to play.
yeah, I definitely would agree. We've always had real nice times in Cincinnati, especially at the Southgate House is so much fun.
Oh, we've got friends that play there quite
Yeah.
often. Yeah.
There's a lot of good places in Cincinnati for bands to play. Tons and tons of venues and stuff. So
And that venue is particularly special with its many, many stories of hauntings and whatnot.
You know what's funny is everyone always asks us, what are your favorite haunts in Cincinnati? But we are never going to haunted places in Cincinnati because we're always somewhere else.
yeah,
So we know very little about where we live.
Well, to introduce you guys to our audience, so we met Greg and Dana this year at the Haunted America Conference in lovely Alton, Illinois in June, and had a fun time enjoying their traveling museum of the paranormal and occult. And once we saw all that awesome stuff, we knew we had to get them on the podcast, talk about that, talk about their blog, which we've linked to 1,000 times. And if you guys are into interesting news you have read, and that's the Week in Weird. So even if you haven't heard the names Greg and Dana Newkirk before, believe me, you have seen their work. So anyway, they're located in Cincinnati, Ohio, a place that we love to visit when we play. We visited there on our little our haunted trip down to South by Southwest this year, and even also interviewed the Gatekeeper Paranormal Society, who are the Bobby Mackey
Oh, yeah, we know them.
music world. And we've talked to them and featured them in the past too. And so anyway, we love the area. We love WKRP. And
We loved your display at the Haunted America convention. That was so much fun.
Oh,
Yeah, I have to say, of all the paranormal conventions I've attended so far, I think that was my favorite display of any of the ones I've seen thus far.
oh, that's
thank
awesome.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it. And Mike and I shared with our audience before when we did our little recap, but both of us stared into the dark mirror.
You're still okay.
Yeah, thankfully. I mean, I think.
I mean, the problem is I stare into the dark mirror and I see happy things.
That
That's
happens.
yeah,
That happens. We've
that's-
seen it.
It's like, oh,
It's rare. So that you know what that means? That means you're actually a happy person inside.
but it's not true. I'm tortured, my friends.
For our audience, maybe could you guys just describe your traveling museum of the paranormal and the occult?
Yeah, let's talk about the traveling museum first, because if you guys get a chance to go see it at a paranormal convention coming up, you're gonna love it. So let's get a quick. What's their elevator pitch on the traveling museum?
The Traveling Museum of the Paranormal and the Occult is the world's only mobile museum with real haunted objects that people can handle themselves. They can view them. They can test them if they want. We've got equipment. They can check them out. There's nothing else like it. And it's something that we do because haunted objects are these things that not everyone ever has an opportunity to see. They can go to haunted buildings and go on ghost tours, but they don't have a chance to interact with objects that may or may not have some strange attachment to them.
Okay, and I always think about. I don't know if you guys remember this TV show from the late '80s, but it was called Friday the 13th, the series.
I knew you were going there.
Yeah, and so when I was growing up, I really liked watching it. It's Canadian, kind of cheap. Nothing against our friends to the north and stuff like that, but your TV's kind of cheap. Let's be real.
Dana's
And-
Canadian.
I totally understand what you're saying right now.
Yeah. And Well, it's like comparing Degrassi to Saved by the Bell. I mean, just in plastic surgery alone. So, but the thing is, on Friday the 13th, the series, the whole idea is that they sold cursed objects to people. And then they had to go and collect these objects because basically the cursed objects were making people kill each other. You know, it would be, you'd make a deal with the devil and you'd get to be famous or something good would happen to you. And then the cursed object would demand you'd have to kill people to make things happen. And so you guys decided to go around and collect cursed objects like that, like a walking, talking Friday the 13th, the series in real life.
Yeah, our deal with the devil's not working out so well either.
Well, I have to say you guys are very brave to take on such a thing because, you know.
I don't think brave is the word.
A lot of people, stupid is usually what people will say.
No, you know, the thing with haunted objects, I mean, and I think that this is the thing with all things paranormal, really, is how you decide to look at it. And I think that a lot of people are scared of this type of stuff because that's how they're interpreting it, because it's weird. It's things that that shouldn't be happening are happening, and people react to that in they're frightened way. That's just how you'd react. But I think if you look at it like all of these things have some kind of a story that they're trying to tell or a message to send, you can interpret it a little bit differently, and it makes those bumps in the night a little easier to handle.
That's cool. I like that way of looking at it.
Yeah, where do you guys keep the stuff? Do you have like a containment unit like they had in Ghostbusters? Like where would you put that?
Kind of. We a majority, well, it depends. A lot of the objects that we have that sort of would fall under the category of being quote unquote evil. We have a giant chest that's been blessed by a priest and that's where we keep them. And
that's where the problem items go.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's not many of those.
So you have an item that, I mean, if an item's considered quote unquote evil or something like that. So you have the blessed chest.
Yes.
And we could make a song just out of that with the rhymes we all just did. But what kind of priest did the blessing? Like, does the religion matter? If it's like an African idol, does then it not respond to a Catholic priest?
No,
or
you're
if it's
dead
Catholic,
on.
does it not respond to them?
You are on the money. We have a lot of objects that respond to different religious iconography differently.
Okay.
And I don't think that really what it all comes down to is most of the time it just depends on how much you believe that what you're doing is going to contain it. And sometimes it takes somebody who's really good at focusing that kind of intention. So like when somebody has a haunted house, they call a priest in. But some people who don't believe in Catholicism, they'll bring in a light worker.
Or a shaman.
It
really
and they all
depends.
work. It just, what matters is that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt it's going to work. And so, while there are things that respond differently to different religious iconography or holy water or, whatever kind of binding you put, most of the time it's just a matter of knowing it's working. The minute you doubt that, you're leaving some room for it to not work.
And isn't that amazing? Because when I think about vampire movies, and in vampire movies, it's always if you don't have faith, if you don't believe, then like a cross doesn't work against the vampire. I just didn't realize what kind of important life lesson that was.
Well, it all comes from somewhere, right? Like all of this stuff, even in the craziest, most ridiculous legends, there are these seeds of truth.
And so the traveling museum is something that we were pretty much amazed by. Where did you guys get the idea to start that?
And where did you how did you find all those objects?
Right. Did you just, do people just say like, hey, this thing is evil? You take it.
That's pretty much exactly what it is. Everything that we have in the museum has been donated. So we have pretty much our big rule is we will never buy anything that is quote unquote haunted or cursed.
Yeah, I really do think that plays a part in whether something is haunted or not. I think that, and this is something we've been preaching more and more because there's a lot of people selling so-called haunted objects online. And I think that, the act of exchanging items for money is the oldest cleansing ritual in the book. I think that's the fastest way to get something not haunted anymore.
Okay.
But a lot of the stuff is, the idea for the museum came as a total accident. We were giving a lecture at Scarefest several years ago about the time we did an experiment where we got a friend abducted by aliens. And it was completely unrelated to hauntings. They gave us a booth. We had nothing to sell or promote, really. So we said, we've got all this stuff that we've collected. And some of this stuff has been from, cases that we worked on years and years ago. Some of it's been stuff that, family members who go, well, give the weird stuff to those weirdos have given us.
The professional ones.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, this was when we were just amateur weirdos at that point.
Okay, fair enough.
Still had to have the day jobs.
Before you made the jump.
And it was only like half a dozen things that we dug up and stuck out, and people loved it. And we thought, there's something to this. We should do this more, because the thing we heard the most was we never get a chance to see this type of stuff and hold it. Because that's one of the big no-nos is don't ever hold these haunted objects because you'll have something follow you home or whatever. And so we thought, let's break those rules and let's do this and let's take this around and let people interact with this stuff. And after like 3 years now, people just keep giving us stuff. At every event, they'll bring us more weird stuff or they'll send it to our post office box. We don't know what to do. We're running out of room.
Well, and you guys just glossed over something there real quick when you're like, oh yeah, the time we had our friend abducted by aliens.
I was waiting for that.
Thank you.
I want to get back to that.
There's only so much we can say.
Yeah.
But also I want to start a little bit from the beginning to what got you guys interested in the first place, to where the point, because it's a lot of things like Wendy and I, we know a lot of amateur weirdos, wouldn't you say?
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who, who dabble and play around and check it out, but there's not that many people who say, okay, let's go for it.
This is my career. I choose to do this all the time.
Yeah, and you guys, came together as partners to do this together, which is, I think, an incredible story. So I'm interested in seeing, okay, number one, where you both from? And Dana's from our friends to the north, the Great White North, and but where are you both from, and what got you into this stuff in the first place, and then maybe how'd you meet? So what's the origin story behind Greg and Dana Newkirk?
How long is this podcast?
Okay, well, let's take the condensed version.
You got
it. All right. Yeah. Well, we both started really just
really
with a absolute obsession with the paranormal, and for me, it was my friends and I investigating the paranormal all the way back in like 1999, 2000. And we found this website that was a bunch of teenage boys who were doing the exact same thing. So we reached out to them and kind of started like a brother-sister group. And they would share information with us about their investigations, and we would kind of do the same thing, and we would go back and forth.
Okay, so where were you guys located? Like, how far away? And the meeting over the internet and everything is such a lovely start. So where's everybody located right now?
At this point, I was in Kitchener, Ontario, which is about 40 minutes away from Toronto.
Okay.
I was in Troy, Pennsylvania, which is like a half an hour, 40 minutes from Scranton, PA.
Okay, so now how far away are you guys from each other?
I think we probably were like 5 hours.
Yeah,
maybe,
that sounds about
something
right.
Like
5
that.
hours, so hundreds of miles away. Okay,
Yes.
please.
Different countries.
Yes.
Yes, please continue.
So I was one of those teenage boys, and me and my friends started ghost hunting because we'd gone out into the cemetery by my house looking for vampires one night after watching too much Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
As you do.
We had made stakes in shop class and everything. Like, we were taking it seriously. But the real reason was we were terrifying our friend, Nick, who was kind of like the dumb, hot guy of the group. And he was the only one who didn't know we had people hiding in the cemetery.
Oh, cruel.
Oh, man.
And
So
we scared
cruel.
the daylights out of him. And it was so much fun. It was so great. We had such a good time. We said, let's go and not have someone hide. Let's just go out and scare ourselves. And so we started going to cemeteries and abandoned houses, and when things started to happen without us having to make them happen, we said, oh my God, ghosts are real. There's something to this.
Okay.
And then that was it. We were in the school library looking at every single book with, the topless witches in them, and, Just
All the 70s witches.
looking at that
Everybody's favorite 70s witches.
Yeah.
I think that was a coming of age moment for lots of kids before the internet.
Yeah,
Where-
when you see like Satanic Brides of Dracula or whatever for the first time, you're like, oh, I didn't know that. So what was the name of your group?
Ghost Hunters Incorporated.
Ghost Hunters
Awesome.
Incorporated.
Not because we were incorporated, but because we were kids that thought it sounded cool.
right.
GHI. So official.
And where were you? So where was your website? Did you have like a .com? Was it on GeoCities
Oh,
or
It was
something like?
GeoCities.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. We both had GeoCities accounts. And then the story takes a surprising turn when Dana and her friends get a TV show in Canada.
Whoa,
And-
that's a big
What?
step.
That was way back in
Well,
the
it's
day.
Canadian TV. so it's
Again,
not that
Canadian
big.
television, so you can imagine what
That's
it was
so
like.
cool.
Well, it's still awesome.
That was back in 2003.
So was it like Wayne and Garth or what?
Yeah.
It was
No, it
pretty
was-
close to that.
No, it was legit. It was actually, I'm making fun, but it was,
Yeah.
it was the first paranormal show in Canada. And it was one of the first, it came out right at the same time Ghost Hunters did in the US.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it was actually
What-
a really big deal.
What was the name of the show?
The show was called, unfortunately, it was
Ghost
called-
Hosers.
That would have been so much better.
Gosh, that's
It was
terrible.
called The Girly Ghost Hunters because it was myself and my female friends.
Okay.
So we basically it was basically just ghost hunters with girls. We basically we drove around Ontario and got to investigate some of the coolest haunted places, and we got one season. It was really fun.
That sounds super fun.
Yeah.
And we got to put this in the show.
I wanna
notes.
watch
We
it
need-
now.
We need to embed it. You guys, is it on YouTube? Where can people find the girly ghost hunters?
It was on Hulu.
It used to be on Hulu.
But I think it got bought by somebody, and now it's being screened. I only think the only place it's showing is on German TV.
Oh.
So it's me with German subtitles.
We have to go to Germany to see it.
Right,
Dubbing.
I love the girly ghost hunters. It's my favorite program.
Jawohl.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So-
great. And-
Yes.
but- so when did you guys meet and get together? Actually, so you have the Ghost Hunters Incorporated, who are investigating the wilds of Pennsylvania, and then you've got the girly ghost hunters, who are taking it to the streets of Ontario. When did the Great Connection happen, and how did you end up in Cincinnati?
We hated each other, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, that isn't how it works. It's like a Tom Hanks movie.
Classic.
Yes.
No, me and my friends were dumb, angry teenage boys who were like, they stole our shtick and they got a TV show out of it. And so we started to recreate their website, and we basically like SEO bombed it. We recreated their website, but changed all their quotes to make them sound dumb. And then we replaced all their pictures with us in drag. And so
No
we
way.
became the top search result.
Man.
So much effort.
And I think the last conversation Dana and I had was on AOL Instant
It
Messenger.
was an argument over. No, it was Yahoo. Instant
Oh, it was
Messenger.
Yahoo. That's
Whoa.
right.
Back.
And,
give you an
and
idea.
my friends were sitting behind me, and the last words I said to Dana was, I said, "Whatever, you hairy slut." And then that was it.
Oh my goodness.
Like
That's
the
Just like a
ideal
young boy.
16-year-old.
Yeah.
very intense.
And
So yeah, we didn't speak for like 5 years after that.
Okay, so what year is this taking place here?
That happened in 2003.
had to be 2003 or
yes.
2002,
2000
maybe.
okay.
It was probably even 2002.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you still got some of that turn of the millennium angst going on.
Oh,
A
yeah.
little bit.
Okay. All right. So you get angry. You fight a little bit, and you got. And it sounds like, you know how when like kindergartners chase each other around or something like that, like
Yes.
the guys make fun of the girls. They're like, "Yeah, you're stupid. You're ugly. Blah blah blah," and they secretly love them.
That is exactly it. Dana, but see, ours was a forbidden love. Dana was a few years older than me at the time.
Ooh.
And well, I said at the time as if that's changed. She's still a few years older than me.
You haven't caught up to her, huh?
Haven't
Well,
caught
it
up yet.
depends because the cursed objects can stop aging, can't
That's
they?
true.
I mean, you
would
might have to.
think.
You might have to bathe in the blood of a few virgins, but what's a few virgins? They weren't using it anyway.
They're hard to find these days.
They are. All these kids.
Wow.
So, spoken like a true old man.
I know, right? It's
Oh,
terrible.
goodness.
Do they speed up aging?
Well, Canadians age slower than everyone
That's
else.
true.
We
It's
do
the
know
cold. It's like
They
being in a
do. It's-
refrigerator.
It's the cold and it's the healthcare because they get taken care of at a younger age.
That's
Exactly.
true. Anyway, I felt bad. I
5
felt
years
bad.
later, he
5
felt
years
bad.
later, I felt bad. I was a real jerk. I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I was
Yeah.
a huge jerk.
No, well, you called your future partner a hairy slut.
That was the tip of the iceberg. I was
So-
I was a mean kid.
I feel like I need to get a T-shirt that says that on it.
So I felt bad. I went on a quest of apology, and I was apologizing to a lot of people that I'd wronged before I was moving out to Seattle.
So that was your
And-
fourth step?
That was it. Yeah, exactly. And so I rented a car. I tried to contact Dana a ton, and I could never get a response. I don't know if she was ignoring my emails or what, but I finally got to the point where I said, I got to do what I got to do. So I rented a car. I drove to Canada, printed out pictures of her and her friends, went to the town I knew that they'd lived in 5 years before, and then just started walking around and saying, do you know who these people are? Do you know where I can get in touch with these people?
What, like the Terminator?
Yeah, that's
Dude.
that's an old-fashioned manhunt
Yeah,
style.
look at this.
Second,
Look at this guy. You're FBI now.
oh, it was creepy. I realize how creepy it was now. I slept in the car that night. Yeah, it was bad. But within 45 minutes, I had a lead. And I ended up actually finding one of them at work. And the look on her face was like, oh my God, he's here to kill me. And she called Dana right away. And we actually went on a ghost hunt that night.
Mm-hmm.
And she still made me drop her off, like half a block from where she actually lived.
I didn't want to get murdered.
Sure.
Atta girl.
I didn't want you to know where I live.
500. You don't come 500 miles. I mean, just
Right.
Have you
And then that
seen
was
this
it.
ghost hunter?
right.
Pretty much. And now we're married.
And now we're married.
Yay.
Wow, well, that's got to be one of the best stories I've ever heard about meeting and
Yeah.
and reuniting. And it's amazing that you met on the internet, such a modern way of meeting, and then like for you to actually find data, you had to do like the total old-fashioned, like low-tech method.
Right. Like
So-
walk
It
into a
works.
town. That's
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty good. So how did you find your way down to Cincinnati then? From was it just like, hey, it's it sounds like a great place to be, or what made you?
We were actually hired to utilize our professional weirdo-ness by a company here named Road Trippers. And they needed some travel writers. They needed some people to build their content. And we were the perfect people for it.
Yep.
So we moved to Cincinnati and worked with them to create their content and kind of steer it in like a weird, fun, offbeat kind of direction.
We'd started an online magazine years ago. And I mean, we'd bounced around all over. We'd lived in Seattle and Chicago. And at the time, we were living in Kitchener. And I was actually going through my immigration because I was supposed to become a Canadian.
Okay.
And we got this email from Road Trippers who had just started their company, and they were looking to have, a real strong footing in offbeat travel. And they'd seen our website, and they invited us to come down and gave us jobs, and we wrote about weird stuff constantly. And that's how we came to Cincinnati.
What a great job. I mean,
yeah, that's a pretty. And I think when people often say like, "Oh man, I really want to be a ghost hunter," or like, "I watch TV and I want to be one of those professional ghost hunters." Like, what would you do? What would you recommend? And the first thing I always say is, "Well, can you write?"
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you can't, I mean, start writing and practice, because that's the only way anybody's ever going to give you a buck for this.
Well, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard to make any money being, a quote unquote professional weirdo.
Right.
And-
Just Van Helsing, like you walk around, are you going to get hired to stake vampires?
And even then, it's like, people think that if you're on TV, you're making a ton of money. And that's really not the case. These
Right.
guys make money by doing lots of events and things like that. So it's not, the benefits to being a professional weirdo are not that great.
kind of like being a musician.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. But you do it because you love it
Yeah.
and you're passionate
Right.
about it, and you like to tell stories, right? And that's it.
Yes.
Mhm. Absolutely. And connecting with people.
And that's something that you guys are really good at, which it was very obvious right away at the convention because you were just so nice to talk to everybody. Friendly and nice.
We like it. We love it. Yeah, it's like
And
you said, it's connecting with people.
Exactly. And I mean, part of the cool thing about what we do is that we get to collect other people's stories because
Right.
they come to us and tell us all about the stuff that they've experienced. So it's really like, it's kind of great on many different layers for us because we can tell them our creepy stories and then collect theirs.
That is fun.
Okay, so you guys, what was your original magazine called? Your Weird? Was it the Week in Weird? Was that the first thing you started, or did that develop over time?
It's the same. Well, we really only changed the name. We changed the name and a lot of the content. Like I said, I was kind of a jerk when I was younger, and it was a very skeptical leaning magazine, to believe it or not. But the title was "Who Forted," as in
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, I remember.
Charles Fort.
Yeah,
course.
No one got it, right?
Nobody got the Charles.
Nobody got the
Fort.
Come
joke.
on, that's brilliant.
right. No, it's funny. No, I remember Who Forted. I didn't know that you were part of it.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
That's the
We
first
we don't-
incarnation.
Yeah, I'm really not. I'm not proud of how angrily skeptic I was.
Oh, come on.
During that time period.
If we all have to sit here and apologize for what happened in our
Right.
20s today, we're going to be here all
No.
day.
That's
Let's
true.
not go there.
That's true.
Because I'll go down my list, and then the show will be over.
Yeah. So we changed the name several years ago, and it wasn't fun. We started to look at the kind of people we were attracting, the kind of crowd we were attracting, and it was like, I don't want to be part of people who are sucking the fun and mystery out of the world.
And I
And-
think at that point too, it wasn't really reflecting our actual beliefs
Yeah,
about
like
the paranormal.
we've had crazy things happen in our lives, and we've seen lots of weird stuff. So it was really just coming out of a place of frustration, I think. But
When you say you've seen some crazy things, what was the one experience that you think both of you had, maybe not together, but just individually, that turned you from somebody who goes, oh, this stuff is great, or a little kid who thinks, well, I think ghosts would be great, but I don't know, into someone who goes, yeah, I seen them, and they're real. Like, was there like a singular experience that happened to you?
We've definitely had experiences together, but I can think from my own personal experiences, the one that sticks out in my mind as being really the thing that changed the way that I looked at the paranormal was something that happened in a place called the Hermitage in Ancaster, Ontario. And it's sort of the abandoned ruins of this old mansion. And it has a lot of stories associated with it, and sort of some of them are true and some of them are exaggerations. So my friends and I were investigating the Hermitage, and in order to get there, you kind of have to hike for a mile into the middle of the woods. It's the ideal, like, creepy location. And so we were all together investigating, and a group of us watched like 7.5, 8 foot tall shadow being walk out of the woods. The best way I can describe it is that it was like television static, kind of contained in the outline of like a human, but it was a human with really long arms, really long fingers, and it kind of started to approach us. And obviously we were completely freaking out at this point. And then we realized not only is there one that's approaching us from the front, there are two more from either side of us, sort of like flanking us.
Oh man.
And it was like legitimately the most like terrifying and kind of like exhilarating experience I've ever had before. And we obviously turned around and ran out. And after that, kind of were obsessed with seeing if other people had similar experiences. And tons of people have had these experiences with these tall shadow beings that live in the woods around this hermitage. Some people think that, they call them shadow beings, or they think that some people even believe that they're greys, or they're possibly connection to Bigfoot.
I believe that they're jinn.
Or they're jinn. Yeah.
get out of here.
A lot of people believe that.
I believe the correct way to say that is the gin.
The jinn.
Yeah, they're the jinn.
The
gin.
gin.
The jinn.
Like from Chicago.
Okay, well that's awesome. So you had that shadow being experience, and I love the description
Yeah.
as static.
That
as
gave me
it's like looking at
goosebumps,
the
too.
television static.
Yeah, it was so strange. It was, I couldn't, my rational brain was looking for every possible explanation, and I could not find one, because I was literally just standing there staring at it. It was an incredible experience. And from that point, that was where I was like, all right, this is absolutely 100% real. I had experienced things before that, but nothing that amazing. So it was definitely the really big experience for me. Anyway.
And you were with other people too.
Oh yeah, there was a group of us. There's a group of probably I'd say about 7 or 8 people. And we all saw the same thing. So it wasn't just me experiencing it and kind of going back to the group and being like, I saw this thing. It was like 7 or 8 of us standing there looking at the same thing and all having the same experience.
Wow.
That's when I get excited about a story. When it's like, hey, even if it's a shared hallucination, it's still a shared hallucination,
exactly,
man.
That's something.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Greg, what happened to you that turned you into a believer?
I mean, I always wanted to believe, and I'd seen, my friends had weird experiences, and I'd seen strange things, but it wasn't until we went to, there's a place where I'm from that we always referred to as the Church of the Damned, because it always had these legends behind it. We'd only ever investigated it. The first time we'd investigated it was for this little documentary that we were making with a group of filmmakers from Seattle. And it was our last ditch place because it was, we didn't know if we could get in trouble for being there, that kind of thing.
Now, what age are you when you're doing this?
At this point, I was 17.
Okay, so you're 17 years old, and you knew a group of filmmakers from Seattle coming to make a documentary? I mean, when I was 17, I was barely driving.
Yeah, I mean, I'm choosing my words carefully. It was...
I'm still barely driving.
A very independent documentary.
Okay.
That's a nice way of putting it.
And you know what? I think very fondly of it. I do think very fondly of it. But we were all like, we were still amateur weirdos at this point. Okay. And it was still a very independent documentary. But what ended up happening was the very last night, the place we were supposed to go to, we were snowed out. There was no way to get up this hill. We used to drive this big panel van, and we had bolted our own seats into it and everything. And that was like our Scooby mobile.
Yeah, the mystery machine.
Yeah, right. And it couldn't make it up the mountain. So
and then it's like The Shining. You're trapped.
No, we couldn't go. We were supposed to.
In the Church of the Damned.
So we picked this place on a last ditch effort. And we're walking around this little church. It's abandoned. It's one big room. There's a spiral staircase that goes to a pulpit, and then there's a second floor that looks over the pulpit. It's not terribly big, and we're exploring this place, and all of a sudden we see this thick green mist start to form in the pulpit.
Ooh.
And
now it does sound like Scooby-Doo and the Mystery Machine.
I know, right?
The time travel fog.
Yeah. Oh man.
We could not believe what we were seeing because again, we've been investigating for 4 or 5 years through high school at this point. And there were a lot of weird things, but it was always the kind of stuff that we could write off as rational if we wanted to. This was totally different. We didn't know what this was, and we start talking to it. And it starts to come down the one side of the spiral staircase. And it's getting closer and closer.
So how big is this green fog you say? So
it's
set it up here. In the room, you see a green fog. Is it glowing a little bit? Is there light there?
That's what I was wondering. Is it glowing or were you pointing light at it to see it?
We were having to point light at it to see it. And it was like off green, like a dark green. And it looked like a low-hanging fog that you would see outside. It was just this strange, wispy strand of fog, and it was only maybe 6 feet tall.
And this is in the middle of the winter inside an abandoned church.
Exactly. And there was no fog anywhere else in that church. And it starts to come down these stairs. And we are going, what, are we actually seeing this? We're looking at each other to go, are we seeing this? We're looking at the director to go, you're getting this? And all of a sudden, the director grabs his throat, drops his expensive camera on the ground, just smashes it on the ground, falls down to his knees, and starts to heave. We had to drag him out of the church. And when we're outside, you can see these handprints on his neck where something was squeezing his throat closed.
Oh, okay, that's terrifying.
Oh,
And
man.
he said it felt like someone was choking him, and we stopped ghost hunting for 6 months after that.
Yeah, that's goosebumps right there.
Yeah. And
wow, that's incredible.
So was there anything left on the camera? Now, I assume this is digital?
Oh yeah,
By
this was digital. It was on a mini DV tape. So it was like a digital recording still on analog tape. The documentary, I mean, it was released. It's out there. You can see this footage.
It's called The Day I Got Choked by the Green Mist.
It's actually called Ghost Hunters Incorporated presents The Graveyard Shift.
Awesome.
Hey, all right, there you
So
go.
that's on YouTube?
There's parts of it on YouTube. I don't think the whole thing. It's crazy. The craziest thing is,
How about the part where the guy almost gets killed by a green fog?
it's out there. It's out there.
okay.
You can find it. I think it's on
We're
Daily
gonna find
Motion.
Okay.
Sorry, what was that?
Daily Motion.
Okay, we got to check that out.
Yes, we will.
Super
Well,
low res.
And anything that we can find, we'll embed in the show notes that if you guys listening, you can go to othersidepodcast.com/111.
111.
And then we'll be putting some of the stuff we're talking about here and any cool footage we can find that Greg and Dana talk about. We're going to hunt down those girly ghost hunters and get it there on othersidepodcast.com/111. So that's pretty awesome. So that moment, I mean, he got it. That must have been like a kind of experience where everybody kind of just has to collect afterwards, talk about it, clean their undies.
Oh yeah, we didn't ghost hunt for 6 months.
Yeah,
It was, and when we went back, this as an addendum to the story. Well, it happened. It happened as these things happen. We were going to our favorite late night diner. We were hanging out. It was like 1 a.m. We're at this diner, and we start talking about this event, and we say, "You think that really happened the way we remember it?" And somebody else is like, that was the last night of shooting. He needed a climax. He probably did it himself, right? And so we were all in agreement that we had been put on. And and so we went back to the church that night. We worked ourselves up and said, this is it. We're going to go and see if this place is actually haunted like we remember it. We watched a book levitate and fly right past us. I realize how insane it sounds, but it flew right past my head. I could feel the wind from this thing flying past my head.
And the guy wasn't there, the guy that...
Oh, of course not. We didn't even have any equipment with us.
I just want to make sure that,
You didn't bring a camera.
An elaborate
of course not. No.
No, that's I mean, wow. To experience that and
But that was enough. That was it. That was actually what made me go, okay, there's something really going on that is worth staying interested in this. That was the turning point. It wasn't really when he got choked because I didn't fully believe it. But when that thing happened with the book, it was so strange. I've never come up with an explanation. I've always did it fall? No, this thing came right off of the pulpit itself and went whoosh right past my head. I was laughing as I was running away. Like everybody's screaming and running away they bust out the doors. Like kids are flipping over gravestones as they hit them full speed.
There's a flying book.
And I'm laughing. People thought I had something to do with it because it was so strange. And I was like, it was such this weird moment where I was terrified, but at the same time I was like, oh my God, I wasn't making this up. This is real.
That's great. I'm waiting. I haven't had my experience yet.
Yeah.
I want to believe really bad, and I want to, there's tons of things that I have questions about and that I have doubts, but I've not had that extreme for either of you. You both had very, I would say, on the intense scale, very high intensity experiences.
There's a couple of come to Jesus moments.
So, I'd like to have, because I think I would feel the same way too when you said you were laughing, and it's almost like, yes, I want to see something like that. I want to see something that's just utterly unexplainable to the point where you're convinced it's something else.
That was the turning point.
Well, that's pretty good. So you guys both have fairly, fairly exciting believer stories. I like that.
Great stories.
And but what I'm wondering though, because a lot of these things are more spiritual, kind of. I mean, or ghost related. But how did your friend get abducted by aliens? I think.
Oh, and you said it was an experiment too.
It was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you put him in a field with a beacon?
What'd you do? You put him like in a crop circle with like a little sign that says ready ready to be examined or whatever?
Kind of. There was an element of that to it. There was an element of there's only so much I can go into so far. Because we will release everything, how we did it, the footage of it, everything,
cool.
so that people can see this. I don't recommend they try it actually, because it did not end very well, but
oh man, now we're dying to know. This is good teaser.
It worked. I mean, what I can tell you is we went out with the intention. One of the things that Dane and I started doing maybe 4 years ago was we wanted to look at paranormal investigation a little bit differently. And one of the things that we've come to find is that, the paranormal, it's more than just ghosts. It's, Bigfoot, it's UFOs, it's all of these things that are outside of the norm. And
yes, it is.
To truly investigate these things, I think that you need to leave yourself up to the experience. The paranormal is something you have to experience in order to understand it. And so we set off to try and do all these experiments where we were leaving ourselves open to experiences, no matter how insane or crazy they might sound. And one of them was, can we get abducted by aliens? And we went about this by specifically putting ourselves in situations where other people have gotten abducted, and by trying to replicate steps that they've taken and before they were abducted.
So did you go on like a logging expedition like Travis Walton, or
we
kind of
did. Oh God, I want to tell you more.
It's all right. We can save it for when the story comes out.
And when it does, you please let us know, because I'm sure now our listeners are gonna want to know.
We will.
Well.
We want to shout it from the rooftops.
But I mean, that's the big thing that a lot of people talk about. Even some of our Patreon subscribers have mentioned that the hard thing about paranormal stuff is the repeatability of it.
Right.
So when you're, and it seems to me that there are certain aspects, and we discussed this with Dr. Nancy Zangroni about in our parapsychology episode and the real scientific stuff, is that there are certain things that you can repeat, and as far as beating chance.
Right.
And statistically, when it comes to some remote viewing or people trying to connect messages to each other kind of thing, just when they go into a certain kind of, the Gansfeld, the whole field where the ping pong balls in the eyes and the red light and the white noise and everything, and doing that, you can statistically beat chance. That science has found that over and over again.
Right.
Whether we can use that for anything important or something like that is something different. But it's that repeatability, like, how many times have you guys gone ghost hunting and not seen a single thing?
Oh, tons.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
right.
the
the
curse.
majority. Yeah.
That's why when something happens on the TV show every week, you're like, wow, you guys are you're like ghost magnets.
Right. There's repeatability happening, but it's not what kind we want.
It's not bad.
Right. It's repeat. Right. But and on TV, it's the repeatability of the editing.
Manufactured repeatability.
Yeah.
Right. I think that the paranormal's it's very subjective. We don't understand how to get that repeatability. And that's why, one of the biggest arguments that skeptics say is they say, people who are going ghost hunting or people who are doing this or that, they're not doing real science. And paranormal investigators, they take offense to that, and they shouldn't. Instead, they should realize that we're not doing science. We're collecting data. We're in the intelligence business, not the lab science business. We're collecting data sets that will show correlations between specific things that we can then take to a lab, and someone who is a scientist can use that. So we're just trying to subject ourselves to the paranormal because it is subjective. And that, I think, is how people are going to start getting results, is by realizing our experiences are going to be different, but that doesn't make them any less valid.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to put it. And
Very
I love
true.
the idea that absolutely, it's not laboratory science when you're out in the field. No matter even how you try to control the variables and everything.
There's no way.
Right. Chaos theory alone, there's a million different things that can be different, like your night with the green fog, or,
Right.
There's a million things that it could be. Like the director could have seen the green fog and then been like, screw it, I'm going to make it look like I'm getting
Absolutely.
strangled. And So there's a thousand things that just can't be controlled for, and I think that's a great way of putting it. That you're out there collecting data so that sometime later somebody can go in and try to repeat it or try to understand it and everything. But until we get there, try to have experiences and learn from it is probably the best we can do.
Absolutely. And then show, in these hundreds of stories, people who do this specific thing seem to have more experiences. That's going to help later. But it's just a matter of recording that.
Yeah.
Right. I found that heavy amounts of LSD seem to happen. Start having crazy. I don't know what it is.
Kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Traveling Paranormal Museum is going on. When is your next stop? What's the next place? You guys have been off the road for a little while?
We've had a nice solid month break.
Yes.
Wow.
Time
Next,
to grow a big beard.
we
Excellent.
a haunted beard.
The next place we're at, it's a haunted beard. I'm going to shave it and I'm going to put it in a little container and show it to
Gross.
people.
We'll put that in the museum.
The haunted beard would make a good sci-fi story, though.
It would be great.
The next place that we're going to be with the museum is we're going to be on Mackinac Island on the 14th through the 17th with
Yes.
Strange Escapes.
Cool.
That's the next one. Yeah.
Well, that
So
sounds like
Strange
fun.
Escapes is
That's Amy Bruni's, she does kind of like a boutique travel packages for people that are into weird stuff. and
cool.
Weird stuff and wine is kind of the big thing.
These are a few of my favorite things.
Right. I was going to say, that sounds like fun. And if you're up there, you're going to get some fudge, too.
Absolutely.
Oh yes,
So
that's
good.
true. Well, we always laugh every time we go because we have to literally bring all of our haunted stuff across on a boat, and then the horses help us take
the
them up.
looks on
Right,
the
there's no
people's
cars up
faces.
there.
No,
No.
people are like, okay, so now we're stranded on an island full of haunted
cursed
objects.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so for you guys out there, Mackinac Island is off. It's in Lake Michigan. Is it in Lake Michigan or is it on the other side?
No,
I
I
don't
think
know which side it is.
I think it's Michigan.
But it's definitely off the coast of Michigan because when I've been there, it was on a trip to Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And there's no bridges to it or
Nope.
anything.
Right, you got to take the ferry.
And there's no cars, only horses, horse-drawn carriages.
And bicycles. And
So-
the entire island is
Oh, it's so
absolutely
haunted.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
So haunted.
there's a crazy hotel that's haunted there, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
I visited that. We visited the cemetery. This was before I was even really into it. I was like 13. I was like,
Yeah.
well, let's walk through the cemetery. We're in a place that looks haunted. Might as well pretend it is.
There's a fort there.
Yeah. Mission
people
Point,
see,
I think, is a resort.
Yep. People see ghosts all the time.
Mhm. We
And,
had an
and it's a
amazing
big
experience.
It's a big Native American burial ground.
Yeah.
It was
There
like
you
where
go.
they would bury their chiefs and stuff. They would specifically take them to this island and bury them there. And so, of course, let's build a resort over top of it.
Yeah,
That
great
sounds
idea.
It worked great in Poltergeist.
Right.
Okay, so you guys are being there. You're bringing the Travel Museum there in October. Where are some other places people can see you? Or where can they find you if they're looking to see if you're coming into their area? Where's a good place to find the Paranormal Museum?
If people want to figure out where we're going to be or they want to see more about what the museum's about, they can go to paramuseum.com. And it's got lists of every place we're going to be traveling with the museum. It's got things about each one of the items. There's even a 24/7 live webcam where we have different item on every week. And there's like a K2 meter there, and you can sit
cool.
and, we do live events where we'll do live EVP sessions and people can submit questions while they watch. And we do that a few times a week too.
So make sure to check out paramuseum.com. And, we could probably have an episode where we just talk about the different haunted stuff from
Oh
the
my
museum.
gosh.
Like, we haven't even, the episode's almost over, and we haven't even gotten to some of that stuff. So I want to thank you guys very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward to seeing you at a paranormal convention very soon. And also, if you guys want to read anything written by Greg and Dana, it's all pretty much brilliant. And you can find that at weekandweird.com. That's right.
That's right. Thank you guys so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Weekandweird.com is the place you go. Follow them, Weird HQ on Twitter. And we're going to have all those links in our show notes at othersidepodcast.com/111. Greg and Dana, stay weird.
We'll do our best. You too. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Well, Greg and Dana sure did have a lot of interesting stories, and some of them very scary. But we especially enjoyed how Greg shared with us the story about going to Canada finding Dana and apologizing for the rude things that he said when they were younger. And he referred to it as his quest of apology. So this week's song is about just that. Someone actually taking a trip, going somewhere on a special tour just to say, I'm sorry. The song is called Apology Tour.
Well, I'm a recovering angry young man. Had more fury than you needed for just one lifespan. I shook my fist at the world with my undies in a bunch. I had the kind of face that people love to punch. I said my piece, and I said it mean. I was spitting fire and gasoline. I'm not too proud of where I've been, and now I gotta atone for my sins. So I'm saying sorry and forgive me. I'm not the person that I was before. Oh, I'm saying sorry. I get on my knees. You're the next stop on my apology tour. Slam the door and take your best shot. I probably deserve more. I deserve all that you got. I used to think I was hardcore, but definitely not. I was at war with the world, but I didn't know squat. I thought the world owed me a place, an entitled little punk Napoleon case. I'm not too proud of where I've been, so now I gotta atone for my sins. So I'm saying sorry and forgive me. I'm not the person that I was before. Oh, I'm saying sorry. I'll get on my knees. You're the next stop on my apology tour. Yeah, I'm saying sorry and forgive me. I'm not the person that I was before. Oh, I'm saying sorry. I'll get on my knees. You're the next stop on my apology. You and my psychology. Please don't stop on my apology tour.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. You can find us online at othersidepodcast.com. Until next time, see you on the other side.
I love the Girly Ghost Hunters. It's my favorite program.
And the show's not quite over yet. I want to send out a special thanks to our friend Ned, who supported us at a Patreon level where he gets a shout every show. Also want to thank all of our Patreon supporters. You guys are amazing, and you're making this possible in a way that we've always dreamed of. So cheers, and cheers to everyone who's listening. Thank you. We will catch you next week.